It's relatively cheap to exploit. The release by Britain of the Lockerbie bomber was a sign of the UK's willingness to foster good relations with Gaddafi, even though it risked damaging ties with the United States. But even Britain is now condemning Libyan actions.
We condemn the use of heavy weaponry against protesters. We're shocked by the reports of the number of deaths, 35 apparently at one hospital overnight. And we've had to say very clearly, just because the news media doesn't have full access to Libya, the eyes of the world are still upon the Libyan government and how it is responding to protest.
And as the crisis deepens, Europe is coming under increasing pressure to act. Harry Smith, Al Jazeera.
Earlier we spoke to Manusha Takin, a senior policy analyst at the Centre for Global Energy Studies in London, and he told us the crisis will cause a disruption in those supplies.
If there is a break of the exports of oil and gas from Libya into the international market, there will be a psychological reaction. The price of oil will go up. But I think within a few days or a few weeks, the market would realize that 1.5 million barrels per day, let's say, oil and much smaller quantity of gas can be replaced by other sources from the Persian Gulf, the Middle East. Saudi Arabia has 4 million barrels per day already available. The industrialized countries, members of the IEA, they have a plan from strategic reserves to compensate for that. So it can be managed, but there will be a disruption. On a long-term basis, the assumption is that those major investments, which I don't have the number, but they are really significant, especially since the lifting of the sanctions the last few years. Many companies have gone and they have started major projects. We haven't had much discovery and increase of production yet, but that is the nature of oil and gas, which has a long lead time. So those investments are there. I'm sure the investors are worried.
Germany's ruling CDU party is bracing for a heavy defeat and a series of defeats in a series of regional elections. And that could shake the stability, once again, of the German Chancellor Angela Merkel's coalition as its popularity continues to slide. Let's talk to Al Jazeera's Nick Spicer. He's in Hamburg, where the vote is underway. Bring us up to date, Nick, with the latest from there.
Well, over 1 million city residents are expected to cast a vote today, and the widespread expectation is that the current mayor, Christoph Allhaus, of Angela Merkel's Christian Democratic Party, will lose in a landslide, making him possibly the shortest-serving mayor in Hamburg's modern history. The issues have been largely local, but the consequences, as you've been saying, could well be national.
They're doing more than voting. They're kicking off an electoral marathon in Germany. A big issue here is shipping. Hamburg is Europe's third biggest port. And the mayor wants to dredge the river so that more vessels can come and use it. But that's not going to save Christoph Allhaus. The man from Angela Merkel's Christian Democrats is poised to lose, some 20 points behind the Social Democrats candidate. He sounds in denial.
So you're still hopeful? Even
sure.
Though, yeah.
We do not only hope, we will fight.
Voters in Hamburg are starting off what will be a whole season of regional elections in Germany. There will be at least 7 out of 16 regions, and they threaten to give Angela Merkel's governing coalition a very rocky ride, and especially for the junior partner in that coalition, the Free Democrats.
Leave the shop open, they chant, young members of the local Free Democrats. The shop has to close at 4 on Saturdays, and these defenders of the free market don't like that. Their party scored well and played a kingmaker role in the last general election, joining Angela Merkel in her coalition government. Some 2 years on, there's a problem. Experts say giant deficit spending saved the German economy, so few people are now buying the Free Democrats' mantra of tax cuts.
They said if we lower the taxes, we will have a revival of our economy. We have not lowered our taxes, and we had nevertheless a revival of our economy.
Hamburg's politics are like those of the other regions voting this year, largely local. But if the Free Democrats keep losing ground, Chancellor Merkel may need to start looking for a new national coalition partner.
Well, let's talk, Nick, a little about national and local. How do these regional elections have any impact at all on national politics and, of course, national political lawmaking?
Well, if we can look first off at what will happen very likely today, if the opinion polls are to be believed, the Social Democrats, the party which is in opposition against Merkel, will likely win here, gain 3 seats in the Bundesrat, the upper chamber. Now, without getting into the complicated arithmetic of elections here in Germany, that will mean it will be even harder for Merkel's coalition to get legislation through Parliament, because they will need to make concessions to the Social Democrats, because they will be 3 seats down further. They're already in a minority in the Bundesrat. So it's a situation which is gradually pushing her and her coalition towards more compromise with the opposition, which of course makes it harder to legislate.
So tell me more about the problems you hinted at a little in your report of the Free Democrats. Why are they so important? They seem to be fringe, but they seem to be becoming central.
It's really critical for Merkel. The alliance between the Free Democrats, economic liberals, if you will, with her Christian Democrats was really seen as the dream coalition when it was created just almost 2 years ago now, but it's turned out to be a nightmare in many respects. Lots of disagreements about taxes against the backdrop of how do we get out of this global economic recession. As we said in the report, cutting taxes was not the policy adopted to get out. So there's a little bit of ideological bankruptcy, if you will, on the part of the Free Democrats. Beyond that, there's the question of the leader of the party, Guido Westerwelle, who's the deputy chancellor, and he's also Germany's foreign minister. He likes to adopt what he calls a Spaßpolitik, a politics of fun. But if we go by the American WikiLeaks cables, the diplomatic cables that have been leaked from American diplomats, they've described him as a lightweight. Many people here in Germany see him that way. So there's a leadership problem within the Free Democratic Party. The risk is that they will go under the 5% bar here in the election law, which means they might disappear as a party in many of the regions, possibly in the federal elections, and that will make them a party that just can't be used in a coalition in the future.
All right, Nick, we're going to leave it there. Nick Spicer reporting live from Hamburg. Thank you. A car bomb has been defused at a Russian ski resort in the Kabardino-Balkaria area. The incident comes a day after gunmen opened fire on a bus of Russian tourists, killing 3. An explosion on Saturday also heavily damaged a ski lift on Elbrush Mountain. The car was found wired with explosives near a hotel in what is a popular winter sports destination. That's all from London for now. Time to rejoin David in Doha.
Stephen, thank you very much indeed. Before we went to London, we were talking to Valerie Amos, who's the United Nations Under-Secretary and Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief Coordinator. It's a good job it's an hour-long programme to get that title out, Baroness Amos. But thank you for staying with us. We were talking about the work that you can do in countries that have got unrest in them at the moment. You were talking about Yemen.
Yes. How
difficult it is to do stuff in Libya, perhaps. But what sort of work can you do? How can you help in these situations?
Well, first of all, I think everybody needs to understand that as the United Nations, we have a number of different parts to our organisation. So I have colleagues who are working, for example, on human rights. And my colleague Navi Pillay, who is the High Commissioner for Human Rights, has already expressed her concern about what is going on in Libya, her desire to actually go and investigate, the fact that they have not been able to do that in the past.
Well, but let me put this to you then, since you bring up human rights in Libya at the moment. No matter what's being said now, Libya has been voted onto the